All right. So today we're talking all about business development. As we know, as the industry is what it is, top echelon applicant tracking software at its core is an ATS, but we also have some pretty fantastic and powerful CRM tools that we'll be covering here today. If you do have questions as we're going through this, there is the ability to submit questions, and I'll try to address them here at the end, do more of a Q&A. I'll try to cherry pick some that are relevant. But again, for those that are joining, if you have any other questions specific to your own agency and or account, you can absolutely reach out to support@topechelon.com at any time to get some one-on-one training. So in terms of this webinar, what are we going to be talking about in terms of business development? A few things in terms of the overall flow to this webinar. We'll be talking a little bit about setting up a hot list to be the hub of all your sales activities. We'll be talking about quickly gathering and importing potential client data, typical workflows for managing your prospects, and also utilizing automations to remove your manual sales tasks. Just as a little side note, automations is a pro tier feature, so if you're not currently on that, it may give you something to think about for hopping into that additional functionality that we offer. So a couple of things here. What do we need to do concerning our database? Of course, we need to create hot lists. We need to get data into those hot lists and then manage that information. So if I call your attention inside the software, we have a number of things we're going to dive into right away. At the very top right-hand side, we have this blue box with two chevrons in it for our side panel. In our side panel, we have a number of items from our daily agenda, the ability to pin records, our hot list section, this little flame icon. We have a recent section, help center articles, and our overall settings, which we'll be diving into here in a bit. But I want to draw our attention to the hot list section. And fortunate enough, Todd had gone in and prepared, kind of paved the way for this webinar for me. And he has created a BizDev hot list. So a number of ways in which we can, of course, engage with the hot list. If they're already created, well, I can simply click on it and then hop into that hot list. I also have the ability to add a hot list at the top left-hand side of this side panel if you don't have one created. Keep in mind, folks, also the name of the game here is customization. You can customize your hot lists. You can customize the categories within each hot list to mirror your stages and workflow pertaining to how you glean and build relationships with your potential clients. We can also talk about how we can create custom activity types for tracking the different types of activities that you may do, from more applicant tracking oriented activities to more of the CRM oriented functionality here that the software provides. So what we'll go ahead and do, we're going to dive into the BizDev hot list and talk a little bit about what really the ability has to not only create the hot list, put records in those hot lists, but then also be able to engage with those different categories for these records. So what you'll notice here are hot lists. Think of them very much like a digital filing cabinet that you can create a folder, give that folder a title, and then put said records in those particular folders. And what you'll notice in this view here, we have our BizDev folder. This is a person hot list. I have the ability to edit or delete any one of the respective categories within each one of these hot lists. And you'll notice we have a new prospect and all of these customized categories at the top. Now, what I have the ability to do here is put any one record into a hot list and assign them to a particular category. And then what you have the ability to do is actually attach or create an automation based on moving a particular record from one category to the next for the ease of logging activities or sending automated emails and things like that, which we'll talk about that here in a moment. But first things first, of course, once we have that hot list created or the ability to create that, we want to be able to put records into those hot lists. And there's a number of ways in which we can do that. So at the top right-hand side of my main menu, let me go ahead and just close the side panel for a moment. At the top right of the software, we have the ability to add a record. And you'll notice I have a couple of kind of easy to add bits of information. So I can add a person, a company, or a job, kind of a one-off addition here. So if I need to quickly add one of my potential clients, I can do so in a moment. You also have the ability to import through our contact importer. Now, if any of you have not used this before, we do have a contact importer wizard that allows for you to import spreadsheet data, and you can create multiple client records from a spreadsheet. It will allow for you to map the corresponding headers, column headers for your spreadsheets into the appropriate fields to create individual client records, if you will. Now, the nice thing about the software, if I dive into the gear icon here for our all settings at the top center of our navigation, on the right-hand side under data management, we have a section for contact importer. Okay. What this allows for us to do is to see all of the data points, all of the spreadsheets that I have added to the database, really since we've created our own account here. So it's going to keep a log of all of the imported records. And what I want to draw your attention to here is really this center column here that's going to give me the number of records that were created, whether it be a person or a company subset of records. But then also you'll notice we have a little flame icon with a plus next to that. So if you go ahead and you add or upload through the contact importer a list of potential clients for yourself, you have the ability to instantly take any one of those client records and put them directly on a hot list. So you're able to, over time, build your lists so that you can always come back to it over time into my hot list and see all of that growing list of those BizDev oriented topics or the records here for BizDev. Okay. Now, you do have the ability, once we have these records within a hot list, I can, of course, take all of my interactions with them appropriately. I have a little preview here that I can select, and it's going to open up their information on the right-hand side, so I can review from this center panel all of the information for their data sheet. I can see the timeline of what happened with that record over time. And we do have the ability to see any other pertaining attachments that they may have. So a couple of options available for just viewing the data as you see fit. You'll also notice we have a current category section here that's going to show you all of the categories that you have created relevant to this hot list. I can create a new prospect hot list title, warm lead, connected, scheduled presentation, pending agreement, active client, back client, really anything that you have relative to your internal process, right? We're just giving you some examples as to what this could mean for you. You don't necessarily have to take it on our word. Again, this is going to be how you process from, I don't know the client at all, to a signed client with that fee agreement in tow. So it's just some examples here that are available for you. And I can then move each one of these people through the process as I see fit. I can move to connected. Now, the reason I'm showing you this, we have trigger-based automations that are connected to not only pipeline stages, if you use this concerning candidates for open positions within the database, but we do also have trigger-based automations connected to individual categories within hot lists. So what you can do here is log activities, and you can send emails automatically when you move a particular person from one stage, or one category rather, to the next. So you'll notice when I moved this person to the connected stage, I had an automation set up to send this customized email to this person. And I can actually click the edit, and it will serve up in reference to whatever that activity or that email is that I had sent. So I connected with Lynn. I wanted to send her an email, and by just simply moving that person into the connected category, it's going to automatically fire off that email. So there's plenty of implications as to what you guys can do with trigger-based automations as it relates to your categories within your hot lists. It's also going to log this as an activity. So when you go back into that particular person's timeline, it's going to show you all of the completed activities that you've done with that person over time. So you're not stepping on your toes, making sure that everybody knows within your account, within your agency, what's going on. Now, if you've not really taken a step into the automation window, in our all settings here, if I call your attention to the automation and sequencing section, we have manage automations. And you'll notice that Todd had went ahead and created a number of automations relative to what I may be doing here for BizDev. So a pipeline inbox. So every time a new person is scheduled, moving them into the inbox, I can log a recruiting call. So I move a candidate or move a particular person record into the first stage of my workflow. It will then log a recruiting call that I need to go and accomplish for that record. So it's just trying to save me time in the overall workflow and the process that I have. If I want to log that, well, we have a bad client. As we know that not all clients are created equal, we're trying to get that information logged appropriately. I can then move that client into the bad client category, and it will log that activity that, well, hey, that client is not client material. So I know that I can engage with them at a later date. So all that to say, guys, I can come in here, I can edit any one of these automations and see really what has happened with that particular automation in line. I have the automation name, what's the description. For every new person, I want to be scheduled an activity. When I move that person into the inbox of the stage, I can schedule that activity, and I have that recruiting call that is assigned to me. So just some things that we can do kind of to save me time in the overall process when it comes to trying to get it in front of our potential clients. So let me hop back here real quick. One thing also, there isn't a limit on the amount of automations that you have within your database as well. So I have as many opportunities to engage with our automations with our potential clients as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and hop back here. Concerning the categories, the nice thing about this is that it's going to give you the 30,000 foot snapshot of what's going on with all of your records. I have the very top right hand side, you can see there are 31 records that exist in this hot list. Okay, I have the ability to create any new category and be able to track my respective stage of the process, but you'll notice what Todd had went ahead and created here for me. I have my new prospect, meaning this is the first stage of the process that I can throw everyone in, almost like a catch-all, if you will, for BizDev concerning client records. I have the warm leads. Maybe my director says, hey, these are the 3 that have been kind of qualified in some context already, that I can engage with them more specifically or succinctly. Those that I've connected with. Scheduled presentation, right? So as we move from left to right, we're getting a little bit more thinned out. So it just allows for me to spend the majority of my time with the new prospects, moving them through the process here. And again, because I can create new categories, we understand that as this is taking on a life of its own, this is something that you can update, change, augment to your discretion. If I hit the edit/delete link at the top, I can see all of my different categories. I can move them around to my discretion. I can delete them, and I can add new categories here as well. Okay. So by and large, folks, really what we're trying to do here is save you overall time when you're in this BizDev function. We can use our hot list very much like pipelines that are attached to job orders on the applicant tracking side, but this can be more specifically catered to our individual client records, trying to glean new clients from the get-go here. So what we can do now, and again, this is trying to catch up a little bit with just being kind of put into this presentation, we'll lean on some Q&A for the here and now. If there are any specific questions, we can actually have support@topechelon.com connect with you as well. But if there's anything that I can answer specifically, I can do that right now. Any questions that I can answer for? It looks like Jacob Savage is asking what exactly is a hot list and what is it used for? So hot lists are think of it like a filing cabinet that you can create customized folders, put records in those folders, and then create customizable categories for each one of those folders so that you can engage with those records as you see fit. Can you add a company to a hot list? Absolutely. So at the top right-hand side, just to show you this really quickly, we have hot lists for our 3 different record types. So you'll have people hot lists. You'll also have hot lists for your company records as well as your job order records that you can engage with those particular records there. Absolutely. How do we create a hot list? So when you're in the hot list section in the top right-hand side in the side panel, you have add a hot list. I can create its name. I can say who the owner is. I can share it with all users, or I can select individual users that have the ability to share that then with the entire group. We have a question from Janet. How can I set up the automated follow-up message you referenced? So that would be in our trigger-based automations. So let's dive into that again. So if I come in here to the plus sign, or excuse me, for the gear icon for our all settings, it's going to take us into our settings, automation and sequences here in the center, and manage automations. It's going to show me all of the automations that I've already created. But let's go and talk a little bit about the that follow-up message that you had asked about. Okay, so we have let's just use this recruiting call here. I want to be notified or kind of set a line in the sand that an activity has happened. If I edit this, you can see what this is doing. Every time I move, so the trigger is you're moving from one pipeline stage to another, okay? So anytime I move a person into an inbox, or the first stage of the process here, I want to schedule that activity. I can set whatever the activity type is, I can assign who it is, and I can then set the date and time. So do I want it to be that same day? Do I want it to be the next day? Or I can set X amount of time out. So as I'm kind of doing my headhunting, right, as I'm adding new information to my database, I can set that trigger and what that functionality is that I want it to take on. So it would then log on particular day what my activity type is so that I can come back around and engage with that person. Okay. Let me see here. Trying to read through some of these questions here, folks. Let me get this. Rebecca had asked, do we have any examples of templates for BizDev that have been getting a good response? Unfortunately, that is kind of the $1 million question, right? We're always trying to figure out, as we turn over every rock and stone, what that magic bullet is. One thing that I will make mention is that we are trying to actively tap into or lean into some AI-oriented functionality that's going to help with the generation of some content here. So, you know, between you, me, and the wall, I think that maybe a chat GPT or another type of AI chatbot may be a good option to take advantage of. Some BizDev templates that may work relative to your part of the country or your industry at large, things like that. Trigger-based automations are available in the Pro version of the software. All right, folks. Well, I'll leave a couple more minutes and then we will dive into, let's see here. We have a question, can I link a person in a BizDev hot list to a company hot list? Yes, yes and no. So keep in mind that all of our records within the database are relational. So I have, when I'm looking at a particular client record, we have a card for the employees. So by extension, when I'm engaging with a particular client record, I can also have at my fingertips the point of contact for that particular record as well. Now keep in mind, a person hot list is not necessarily a candidate hot list, because when we're looking at a particular person record, we have the ability to set that person's type. And I can delineate, is that person a contact? Are they a hiring authority? Are they just so happen to be a candidate that I can then engage with as well? So if I do a search for all of my hiring authorities or my contacts, a people search, I can then create a people hot list for those same type of BizDev functions. And we have a question from Chuck Cole here. Let me just get back down to it. Is there an automated way to make the work address the priority email when you import a new? Yes, absolutely it is. So you have the ability to set what the preference is when you're talking about email addresses to be priority when you add them to the database through the contact importer. One thing I would also say, folks, that may be the best thing, just to reiterate, we do provide ongoing training and support. So if there are specific questions relative to your own accounts that you'd like some individual walkthrough with, I would absolutely encourage you to go to support, send an email to support@topechelon.com. You can always call in as well, 330-455-1433 extension 2, and get a hold of somebody with support that can help you with specific Q&As and kind of walk you through all of this. But let me see if there are any other particular questions. All right, folks. Well, we will go ahead and end this webinar. We will have this available for you to watch back. We'll share this out. If you have any other questions, by all means, let us know. But I thank you so much for your time here today, and you have a fantastic rest of your afternoon. Thanks, folks.